Hello viewers and welcome in to episode 14 of our F1 Manager 22 save on the PS5 with the Mercedes team. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for joining me for another episode, and following on from the Hungaroring where we had a very successful result. Do be sure to check that episode out if you haven't seen it already, because there will be spoilers up ahead. Before I get into the episode and starting with the mid-season board review, I did just want to let you guys know the schedule for this series moving forward. Obviously YouTube is not my full-time job, and I'm editing and recording all of these videos myself while having a newborn child and also having a full-time job. So moving forward, you will still get 5 episodes a week. They will just be uploaded Tuesday through to Saturday, and then it just means I have a couple of days free to spend with my family and also make sure that I'm not getting behind with any sort of work commitments and stuff like that. But I assure you, this series isn't going anywhere and you will still be getting the Mercedes uploads. Thank you for all of the support. Thank you for all of the likes, all of the new subscribers. I do genuinely appreciate it. And if you are enjoying the series, do let me know in the comments down below. But on to today's episode then, starting with the mid-season board review. Season objective on target. Currently, the target position was 3rd, considering the absolute boat that we brought to the season. I'm glad that we're currently 2nd position in the constructors. So absolutely fantastic things that you love to see. Long-term objective is to win the Constructors Championship. Currently in 2nd place. I definitely don't think we are in a position to win the Constructors Championship this year, although we are on a decent run of form dating back to Silverstone. We have done very well the last few races. Silverstone, France, the Hungaroring, all circuits that seem to have brought the best out of this Mercedes car. If we move forward, the team rating is 5 out of 5, so that's good. The board confidence is high, and the team bonus will be at 1.5 million. So fantastic there. We can use that where necessary, and the first update that we've got was the manufacturing of some extra side pods. It wasn't a new part, but we were running a little bit low, so we decided to make some new side pods there. Looking at the constructors, as mentioned, we are currently sitting in 2nd place ahead of Red Bull because of this fantastic run of form that we've been on. But following the summer break, which is about a month long, just under a month long, we will be back in Belgium at Spa, and that is a superb circuit for Red Bull. So I'm expecting them to bounce back with a bit of a vengeance. Drivers Championship wise, Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis Hamilton, 8-time world champion, is currently sitting on top of the standings, 3 points clear of Charles Leclerc, and Max Verstappen a further 3 points behind that, who has had a very downturn in form recently. I'm not too sure whether he's had some problems with the car. I don't know if Red Bull have been bringing many upgrades recently, but yeah, he went from winning 3 or 4 races in a row previously to not having a race win, I think, in 3. So it's brilliant for us. Looking at both of the drivers, no development points for Lewis Hamilton, no development points for George Russell, and Nick De Vries has 1. So we are looking to improve his smoothness. While he's with us, we will just enjoy upgrading him where we can. I think what we're going to do though for Spa is we will add Nick De Vries to this session, probably for Lewis Hamilton. We'll go through some of the emails. I don't think we've got anything major. The financial reports come in, we're way over the cost cap. Monthly car development, we're currently still quite poor in terms of performance. Top speed, we're up to 6th, acceleration 5th, low speed 5th, medium speed 5th in the cornering, high speed cornering 7th, top speed 5th, acceleration 3rd in the DRS, dirty air cornering all sort of mid-table, 5th, brake cooling 7th, and the engine cooling 13th. We're like the worst team, or the worst car when it comes to engine cooling, so we do need to work on that a little bit more. Let's move forward then. Remember, it is a summer break as we've got a new suspension manufactured. In terms of the engine, we're doing okay there as well. We don't need to worry about any penalties just yet. The ERS is manageable too, and the gearbox, we might have 1 more race on this one before we have some problems there and then have to go to the final one. Car parts development, let's take a look at the current projects. I've gone to the wrong place here. Current projects ongoing. We've got a chassis which will be finished in 5 days, and that will be on Lewis Hamilton's car. And now we're doing some more upgrades to the front wing. So now we've got 8 engineers available. We're going to start a new project, and we're going to research again the chassis, because we do need to think about next year's car. So we're going to drop that down to 1.1 there. And then we've got a load of wind tunnel hours. So we're going to drop that to about, we'll do 18 because then that will leave 18 for the final one. Drag reduction, engine cooling, that's a big one. Engine cooling we need. And then research focus. And then what we'll do is we'll put everything to the right once again. And everything there should be fine. And that kind of maximizes everything for next season's car. And then we continue that. Engineers, we've got 8 available. So I'll use 4. And then we'll do another 4. So we'll do that on there, and then we'll do another 4 on the side pod. So we'll finish up the rest of our research on the side pods. We've got another 18 hours, so we're going to finish that. We've got them for another month, and we don't really need much more in terms of car setup and in terms of upgrades yet. We don't really know how the car is going to perform just yet with the upgrades at Spa, so we do need to think about that. We're going to up all of these again to the right hand side. Just seems to be the best way to it, because then all of them kind of get maxed out as best as we can. And then engineers 4, and we'll do that cost of 210k. Wonderful stuff. So we've done all of that. Don't need to worry about anything else. Next season projection has started. The suspension and the boardroom is in poor condition. So let's have a look. Right, boardroom. Do we just upgrade it, or do we just refurbish it? We've got a little bit of money to spend, and we did just get the bonus from the board, so we will spend that back on the board. Let's upgrade the boardroom a little bit there. Everything else okay there? Yeah, I think so. Don't need to worry about anything there. Staff facilities, everything's at 100% pretty much there. Fast forward then through onwards. We've got some more obligations there. Sponsorship stuff to do, which is all good. Let's take a look at the emails here. Suspension manufactured, up and coming driver Oliver Behrman. We might scout him a little bit. Right, urgent front wing, low stock. So let's manufacture a front wing, which is fine. We'll manufacture 2 on normal, because we don't really need much more. So we've got 2 spares there. And then the final one was yeah, front wing, low stock on both cars, which is okay. So we'll move on again, and we will come back when there's a little bit of an update. And there is an update. A boardroom upgrade has been completed. Fantastic stuff there. And the new chassis is ready to be installed on top of that as well. The memorabilia room is in poor condition. A lot of upkeep today. Morale stuff. Let's just refurbish that. This isn't the biggest thing, so I don't really want to spend a lot of money there. The memorabilia room is good to go. And let's take a look here. Chassis manufactured. So let's go to car setup, install on car 1. Sorry, we've done the wrong one there. Install on car 1 and install on car 2. That's a new version of the chassis. So some upgrades coming here for Spa. Let's see if that works. The manufacturing of the front wing is complete. We don't need to worry about that. We already have the new version of the front wing. And now let's head into practice for the Belgian Grand Prix. Before the Belgian Grand Prix then, here we go with the performance targets for the sponsorship. Reach Q3, reach Q2. Fastest lap we're not going to do, but finishing position is fine. Of 2 cars in the top 8, and then finish street position, 2 cars in the top 8, a number of drivers in the top 8. One more time and we should reach our bonus. So it's on to the Belgian Grand Prix.
Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. This circuit was built in 1921, and even though its length was halved in 1979, the Belgian Grand Prix is still one of the longest, fastest, and most magical races on the F1 calendar. Spa-Francorchamps is famous for its long straights and fast corners. Drag efficiency will make all the difference here as drivers zoom through the famous sequence of Eau Rouge leading up into Raidillon. But a twisty middle sector keeps things tricky down on the track. We're about halfway through the season now, and there's still plenty of time for everything to change. All eyes are on the teams and how they tackle the rest of the year. Let the weekend begin!
Right, here we are then at Spa, one of the iconic circuits on the F1 calendar. And we've got a little bit of different weather this weekend. So it starts off cloudy with a little bit of sun, some rain on the Saturday, hopefully not during qualifying. I don't mind the rain during the practice, but qualifying could get a little bit tricky, as if you remember our Australia episode. Yeah, we've been caught out by that before. And then we've got the race, which is cloudy again on the Sunday. It doesn't seem like there's a chance of rain, which is a little bit of a shame because that does make things exciting during the race. We're obviously going to go through the setup plans once again with both drivers. But first things first, Nick De Vries, welcome in to the Mercedes team. It will give Lewis Hamilton a little bit of trouble on the track acclimatization and stuff like that. But we're going to give Nick some time to get used to the car and hopefully get a seat in Formula One. Obviously, the Grand Prix this weekend was at Monza. Nick De Vries on his debut won driver of the day and some points for his Williams. So congratulations to him. It's only right that we sort of honor that with a seat in the car this time. Right, first things first, we will go 20 laps on the soft compound of tire on both cars just to get a decent setup in, and then yeah, I'll mess around with the setup, and any highlights on practice I'll bring to you once again.
Now just focus on the Haas.
Seems like a very high impact, high speed crash here for Mick Schumacher, who locks up and just smashes straight into the wall. That is a massive one for the Haas driver. We're currently riding along with Nick De Vries, who is currently sitting behind the McLaren, I think of Daniel Ricciardo, is it? I think it is Daniel Ricciardo. I am a little bit concerned at this circuit just because it is a very power hungry circuit. You got long straights and you need a good and a high top speed, and we don't seem to have that this year. So I am a little bit concerned as we watch Nick De Vries maybe go for an overtake on Daniel Ricciardo, pulls alongside him. DRS is open. I don't think he'll make it count. It is a practice though, so it's not really a big deal, but he's doing okay in Lewis Hamilton's car at the minute as they go side by side. I'm interested in driving there from De Vries. Surely you just kind of want to sit behind and get through your practice session, but he's trying to leave an impression. Good on him. Right then, first lot of feedback is in practice one, and George Russell's at a 46%, optimal on the straights, which is fantastic. Oversteer is good, and then 3 bad. So we do need to play around with it a little bit, but 46% for the first go round, not too shabby at all. And over on Nick De Vries' side of the garage, we have got 3 bads and 2 greats. So still a little bit of work to do there, but 61% for his confidence setup again is not too bad. Experience gained is fantastic, 301% so far. We're going to send him out again with the new setup and see if his feedback comes back well. George Russell then at the end of practice 1 has a 71%, 2 optimals, a good, a great, and a bad. So still a little bit of stuff that we need to do. I think it's mainly relating to the traction. Obviously that's currently bad, but we will do that, and then we will do something like that. Do something like that for now. Obviously the traction being bad we need to fix, but yeah, 71% after the first session, not too bad for George Russell. We're bringing Nick De Vries in and hopefully get his feedback as well. And Nick De Vries comes in with a 77%, 2 optimals, 2 greats, and a bad on the oversteer. So the oversteer, we're just going to kind of go down a little bit there like so, and then yeah, we're going to do something like that, and then the anti-roll distribution, we can move it back that way, and then yeah, we could do something like that, and then the toe out and get that back up to optimal. It's another huge crash in practice. This time it's the Alfa Romeo of Zhou Guanyu, who has been involved in a lot of crashes this season. Hopefully he's okay, similar to Mick Schumacher, who did manage to come back out again for a few more runs. We have gone out for the final 10 minutes with Nick De Vries and George Russell just to get their track acclimatization up for George. And for Nick De Vries, it's the final session he's probably going to have in the car round here at Spa until later on in the season. So yeah, we're giving them a couple of attack laps on the soft tire, see what sort of time we can do. Right now De Vries in P15, George Russell's in P10. That's the end of practice 1 then. Nick De Vries done very well there, got all of his experience points up, and done well in terms of the setups, and he's currently P9 on the timesheets. Good for him. And again, hopefully we can do our best to get him a drive for next season. Maybe at the Williams, maybe at the Haas, maybe at Alfa Romeo. Maybe not, because obviously they're Ferrari engine. So I don't know if they'll be willing to do that. George Russell up in P5. A good second, 1.1 seconds off Max Verstappen. That is a lot of time to find out around here at Spa, especially when we don't have the power to do it. It'll be interesting to see if we can make some gains with the setup a little bit later, but I think our race is possibly going to come down to strategy And instead of looking forward, we might be looking behind at the likes of Alpine and the likes of AlphaTauri again, like we were earlier on in the season. But let's go on to practice 2. Now, interestingly, one thing I have just noticed is that Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso and Valtteri Bottas all have penalties, as does Mick Schumacher. What are the penalties for? There doesn't seem to be any incidents during the session, so maybe they're taking engine penalties. Interesting. Very interesting. So Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso and Valtteri Bottas. If this were to finish like this, George Russell would start in P3. A huge crash then for Carlos Sainz, one of the competitors for the Drivers Championship. He locks up. He's absolutely huge and he hits the wall. Full impact at turn 1, so he's going to have to do the rest of the lap. The Ferrari engineers, they're not going through a good time this year. There's another crash. Another crash. Who is involved this time? Not George Russell, so we're good. Although he is holding up the Haas and the Williams, I think it is Kevin Magnussen. Another Haas involved in an accident, and that's about 4 weekends in a row now that Kevin Magnussen has crashed. He's locked up, gone straight off. The impact isn't as bad as Carlos Sainz, but hopefully he's okay as well. Well then, all of that feedback Nick De Vries has given us a 97% driver confidence on that. 4 optimals and a great with Lewis Hamilton. So that's brilliant stuff. Let me just go on to tyres, because if the hard tyres can go the medium tyres can go 37 laps, we are going to put those on and we are going to go 35 of those laps on the mediums, because we want to try and get that track acclimatization up. Car setup, the cornering is on great. How do we mess around with that without messing around too much with it? It has to be the toe out, surely. Not the toe out. Anti-roll, no. Might have to be. Might have to do is tire camber, then yeah, possibly like that, and the traction will move from optimal. But we've got a 97%, and that's all thanks to Nick De Vries. Let's confirm that with Lewis Hamilton. George Russell has got his feedback, but we're going to bring him in about 5-10 minutes, change the setup, and then send him out for some soft tire running. We finished practice 2 in P8 and P10. Again, look at all of those engine penalties up in front. So it'll be interesting to see exactly where everyone slots in. I'm hoping, though, that we can find a little bit of pace, because if we qualify behind Alonso, Bottas and Gasly, I'd imagine that we still start behind Max Verstappen and Leclerc. But if we can maybe qualify P5, P6, then I think we should be fine to jump both of those on the start line. But yeah, let's head to practice 3 as we see George Russell track acclimatization 76%. And Lewis Hamilton's got his up to 99% on the setup. So good stuff there. On to practice 3. And we've got a 99% setup with George Russell as well. Lovely, lovely stuff. So now the rest of the session is all about the track acclimatization. The medium tires can go another 23 laps. So let's go up to 22 with them. Confirm that with George Russell. Send him back out for the remainder of the session. George is currently P3, so that's a decent session for him on the medium tire. Lewis Hamilton's down in P20, but that's fine. We sent him out on the hard tire, and we've managed to get a lot of track acclimatization with him, as George Russell has run wide there. So yeah, need to be careful with that. Let's take a look at a replay of George Russell running wide. Oh, that's very wide. Have to be careful there. Nothing I've seen so far has changed my mind that I don't think we're in contention for the race win, as that's a beautiful shot of all 3 cars just driving around nicely as Charles Leclerc dives down the inside of George Russell and makes up a position there on the track. Nice stuff by Charles. But yeah, I don't think we've got the power for this circuit. I do think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for us. There's George Russell with his 100% on the track acclimatization. So we are going to bring him into the pits. It's just all about getting Lewis's track acclimatization as close to 100 as possible. Remember, we had Nick De Vries in for practice 1. And yeah, just get through unscathed. No issues with the car. No front wing damage, no other damage, and yeah, we should be on for qualifying quite nicely. And Lewis Hamilton's heading back to the garage now as well. His hard tyre run has ended very well. We're on 100% on the track acclimatization. That is wonderful. We might send Nick DeVries out the next race as well for George Russell. We might start getting him quite a bit more experience if his driver setup is going to be quite as good feedback wise. We're now going to head into qualifying. Lewis Hamilton on the hard tyres, best time he could do is up in P10, but George Russell's up in P6. The thing we have to watch out for is Pierre Gasly has finished above us each time so far. Right, so both drivers are in the garage, and our first run was ruined quite a bit by traffic. George Russell currently down in P9, Lewis Hamilton in P8, and we're behind Alex Albon of the Williams and Yuki Tsunoda of the AlphaTauri, so we're definitely going to have to go out again. I kind of want to get us out into clear air, so that's going to be the main thing. So I'm going to send Lewis Hamilton out now, and we're going to try to get them out when everyone's sort of coming in, and hopefully not have any issues there. If we think about the grid penalties for all of the top drivers, Leclerc and Verstappen, if we can finish sort of P5, P6 on the grid during qualifying, then I think we should be okay for a P3 or P4. I think we'll at least go up 2 positions. I'm not sure we can challenge Sainz and Perez, but we'll do our best as we send out George Russell now as well. I think a load of drivers are coming in, and Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, hopefully, fingers crossed, will have the track to themselves for the majority of this session. Let's fast forward a little bit. Is anyone else coming out? I just hope they don't come out. There's Sainz. He's come out. I hope they don't come out when Lewis Hamilton's on his flying lap. Are we going to avoid everyone? No, we're going to be hit by traffic with Lewis Hamilton again. This is going to be a bit of a problem here. Let's take a look. Where is everyone? There is an Alpine. Just don't get in the way. Please move out of the way. Otherwise, we are in trouble. Don't cut across. Don't cut across. Don't cut across. You've cut across. The AlphaTauri's held us up, and that's ruined our lap already. George Russell should be fine. But Lewis Hamilton now has to navigate through absolutely everyone. And the Alpine's now cut across. This is awful. The McLaren's going to cut across as well. They're not staying out of the way. That's a Red Bull. He's done well to stay out of the way. Thank you very much for that. But that's a poor first sector for Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis Hamilton could be in trouble here in Q1. These guys... This is... What is happening? What is this traffic? George Russell is fine. He should improve quite nicely. But... I'm concerned here. I'm very concerned about Lewis Hamilton's time. I don't think we're going to be... As a Ferrari now holds us up. I've sent him out at the wrong time, fair enough, but the AI on this game with traffic is not the best. It is not the best whatsoever as George Russell starts his final run. Lewis Hamilton is just going slower and slower. We have to hope that 5 cars are slower than his time. The problem is Alexander Albon has already out-qualified us. No matter what, we're not going to improve on this lap as the Aston Martin cuts across now and doesn't get out of the way. Albon's already out-qualified us, so yeah, it's not looking good for Lewis right now. Right, so George Russell improves then. He's currently up in P2. That should be enough to get out of Q1. We should be fine with George Russell. Lewis Hamilton is on his cooldown lap, so I hope he holds everyone else up the way they held him up. Right, who are we looking at on the road first then? Let's take a look. Sebastian Vettel is behind Lewis Hamilton, but where's Lance Stroll? Lance Stroll is coming towards the end of his lap now. Does Lance Stroll improve and overtake Lewis Hamilton? That's the end of the session, and Lewis Hamilton doesn't have another run. He's currently in P9. So if Lance Stroll goes above Lewis, we are in big trouble here. Huge trouble as Lance Stroll comes towards the end of his final lap in Q1 and he crosses the line now. Lance Stroll only goes to P19, so that's fine. Fernando Alonso, he's in P13. He was held up by the Aston Martin as well. Pierre Gasly jumps above Lewis Hamilton. Who else do we need to look out for? We need to look out for Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton currently in P10. I think we should be okay to get out of Q1. We should be fine as Lando Norris comes towards the end of his lap. And Lando goes above Lewis. So Lewis is now down to P12. Right, who do we need to look out for? We need to look out for Mick Schumacher, Kevin Magnussen, as Lewis Hamilton is now P13. Latifi's jumped him. Lewis Hamilton is now P14. Zhou Guanyu has made... It's all on the Haas. If one Haas is faster, that Lewis Hamilton's out of Q1. Mick Schumacher went faster. And so did Kevin Magnussen. So 2 big scalps there at the end of Q1. Lewis Hamilton in P17 and Fernando Alonso in P18, all because of traffic. Right, the rain has come out to play in Q2, and thankfully we sent George Russell out straight away on a used set of soft tires just as the rain started to come. So George Russell's currently in P2. Everyone else doesn't seem to have set a fast time yet. Charles Leclerc is still on his warm-up lap. Carlos Sainz has only just come out, and the rain is finished, but the track is very, very wet. Carlos Sainz is coming out on the wet tires. I don't know if he's going to improve here. He has to improve by at least 10 seconds to knock out Alexander Albon. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not sure if Carlos Sainz is improving enough. He's going to be the first runner on the wet tires to finish his lap. Again, he needs to make up about 10 seconds in comparison to Alexander Albon. Carlos Sainz crosses the line and he does just do it. He does just do it, but he is in trouble. He's currently in P10. Where is Alexander Albon? He's coming around the final corners now. Zhou Guanyu should be through. Alexander Albon, can you knock out a Ferrari? No, but Sergio Perez is out. Charles Leclerc is coming up to traffic now. Can Daniel Ricciardo knock out Carlos Sainz? Pierre Gasly is out in qualifying. Charles Leclerc, he can knock out his teammate, or he's going to be knocked out himself. He knocks out his teammate. Carlos Sainz is out in Q2 with Sergio Perez. This has been a shocking qualifying so far. Absolutely crazy results. A Red Bull and a Ferrari, as well as a Mercedes, not in the top 10 shootout. George Russell comfortable in P2, and with Max Verstappen's penalties, we could be on for a pole position with George. Right, so George Russell at the back of the pack then, the final one to cross the line for his final lap of qualifying. And as you can see, Charles Leclerc is currently in P2, Max Verstappen is currently in P1, and George Russell on the soft tire, we've given him another new set of soft tires. With the grid penalties to Leclerc, Max Verstappen coming, George Russell could have his first career pole position. We're currently a second off Max Verstappen. The rain did not come, but this is the end of the session now. And can George Russell improve? No, he cannot. He's gone yellow, sector 1. So it's been a bit of a slow start. But to be honest, it's more about Valtteri Bottas here and Esteban Ocon. If those guys don't improve, George Russell is going to get pole position based on the penalties to the Ferrari and the Red Bull. It doesn't really matter what we do. It's more about them as cars are now coming across the line. Yuki Tsunoda is the first to finish his flying lap. Does he improve? I don't think he's got enough. He does improve. No, yeah, he does improve his time. Valtteri Bottas improves his time. He doesn't go above George Russell. Verstappen improves his time. No, he doesn't. He was held up. Just Charles Leclerc take provisional pole before the penalties off of Max Verstappen. That will be interesting to see. Charles Leclerc comes towards the line. DRS is open and he does not. He improves, but 4 thousandths of a second. Oh my goodness. Those two are done. Unless Mick Schumacher could pull a surprise, George Russell is your pole sitter for the Belgian Grand Prix. Absolutely incredible stuff. Congratulations. That is your first pole position of your career. And as you can see, Max Verstappen, penalty. Charles Leclerc, penalty. I think it's to do with engine or gearbox or something. Valtteri Bottas, penalty. Mick Schumacher, penalty. Pierre Gasly, penalty. And with Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz both being knocked out in Q2 due to the rain, Lewis Hamilton being knocked out in Q1, George Russell sits on pole for the Belgian Grand Prix.
It's time for the final touches here on the grid ahead of today's race.
Mercedes earned themselves a solid position on the grid here during qualifying. Let's hope they can make the most of it at the race start. We saw a reasonably good qualifying performance from Ferrari, and they certainly have a good chance to capitalize during the race. And the race will be taking place under blue skies. That means the teams should be able to apply their strategies without any added complications.
Well, no one can ever predict what will happen at Spa-Francorchamps, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be eventful.
Right, so here we are with strategies. I don't know what the final grid order is, because when you look at results, I don't know what penalties those guys have taken in terms of Leclerc, Verstappen, and stuff like that. When we look at qualifying, I just know that George Russell's on pole, and that's the main thing because of their grid penalties. Right, what we want to do is we continue on. Strategy for George Russell: medium to hard, soft to hard, soft to medium. Can a soft to medium work? It can, just. I don't trust it though. I'd rather trust the hard tire. I do like the soft to hard strategy. I think that that might be okay. With George Russell, I am going to go medium to hard. We're just going to do that, and we're going to basically keep it on aggressive for the whole race. Let's take a look here. Aggressive. Actually, on the hard, we can attack with George Russell. And we're going to go for it. Why not? Let's just go for it. Let's update the strategy there with George Russell. That's what we're going to do. Medium on to hard. And we're just going to go for it. We're going to hopefully be at the front. I think that should be confirmed. We need to see the final grid standings. With Lewis Hamilton, we're probably going to start on the soft and then end on the hard. We're going to have to do way more overtaking with Lewis Hamilton. So we're going to start on the soft, and we're going to do that with Lewis. There's no way of telling what the grid looks like following the penalties. That's something I'd like F1 Manager to add. But yeah, let's head to the grid and see if we can figure out where Max and where Charles Leclerc is, because they're going to be coming through. They're a second faster than everyone around here. They are going to be coming through the pack quite quickly.
We have beautiful blue skies overhead as the drivers line up on the grid. And here we have George Russell. They're starting today at the head of the pack, but will they be able to stay there? Looking down the grid, it's Hamilton. They're starting in the bottom half of the grid today, so there's a lot of cars between them and the podium. The teams are ready to go. Get ready, it's the Belgian Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Right, first off then, let's take a look. Where is everyone starting? So, Lewis Hamilton has been promoted up to P12 due to the grid penalties. Max Verstappen's down in 15th. Charles Leclerc's in 16th. Alonso's in 20th. Gasly's in 19th. So they took some big engine penalties. That's a good start for Lewis Hamilton. Let's take a look at the tyres. We're on soft. Gasly's on soft. Ocon started on soft. So that'll be interesting if he can catch and pass George Russell. The other big boys, Verstappen, Leclerc, they're on mediums. Perez is on soft, but Sainz is on medium. So some different strategies. Right. George Russell is going straight on to attack. And so is... Well, Lewis Hamilton's going to go on to aggressive because the soft tyres will probably run out a little bit quicker. And here we go then. At the start of this Grand Prix, George Russell makes it into turn one without any incidents, as behind Lewis Hamilton has already been overtaken by Max Verstappen. No, he's down in P15. And yeah, we managed to just do it, but he is down to P13 despite starting P12. One of the Aston Martins have jumped a position. George Russell coming under attack from Esteban Ocon, who's on the soft tyre. That compound is probably going to give him an advantage coming down this straight, but George Russell should hopefully have the pace to stay just ahead, as Sergio Perez is now up to P8. Carlos Sainz is up to P7. We need to run away from those two. Lewis Hamilton stuck behind Sebastian Vettel, as Max Verstappen is stuck behind Lance Stroll, and Charles Leclerc is behind Valtteri Bottas. Can Lewis Hamilton get past?
Look now, we're just watching the Red Bull.
Oh, Sergio Perez has gone off there, and he has to wait to come back on. That is a dangerous, dangerous incident. He could have binned it into the wall, and now Sergio Perez is at the back of the pack, as Lewis Hamilton is still being frustrated here by Sebastian Vettel. DRS will be opened soon. Right, Lewis Hamilton is now trying to get past both of the Williams, Latifi and Albon, and trying to do that with Max Verstappen right behind us as well. We have to remember just how quick that Red Bull is behind us. Out in front, George Russell is coasting ahead of Esteban Ocon in P2. Zhou Guanyu and Yuki Tsunoda are doing brilliantly well in P3 and P4. Kevin Magnussen in P5, but Carlos Sainz is on the hunt, so we need to be careful. As Lewis Hamilton, can he get a job done to overtake the Williams? I'm not so sure just yet, but yeah, we're going to put it back to neutral. We did use deploy to try and get the overtake done.
Red Bull moved up. Here's the replay. Now here we see Max Verstappen.
As Lewis Hamilton looks around the outside of the Williams, he's been cut off, and Max Verstappen has made the move past the championship leader Lewis Hamilton, and that's something we didn't really need, as Sergio Perez is still at the back of the pack. Let's take a look at how things stand. Oh, Lewis Hamilton's got past Verstappen. When did that happen? How did that happen? These Williams are both causing so much drama now on these leading cars, as Lewis Hamilton bravely gets by Max Verstappen, and now we have to find a way to get past Nicholas Latifi as quickly as possible. Engineers are going wild in the garage. Out in front, as Lewis Hamilton dives down the inside of Latifi for P10. We need to make that stick, and we do. We've still got overtake on the DRS, so we're going to neutral there. George Russell is having a field day out in front, currently in out in 6 seconds ahead of Esteban Ocon. Lewis Hamilton dives down the inside of Albon on turn 1. I'm just gonna have the Albon didn't crash into us. He's done that before and ruined George Russell's race. Now we need to get out of the DRS of Alexander Albon, try to catch up to Daniel Ricciardo as quick as possible, and again, just hope that these two Williams drivers can frustrate Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc behind. George Russell, we don't even need to talk about his race, coming up to 7 seconds now ahead of Esteban Ocon, coasting, absolutely coasting. Right, so some pit stops are being made. Kevin Magnussen came into the pits from P5. Lando Norris came into the pits, I think, from P7 potentially. Esteban Ocon came into the pits from P2. He's come onto the hard tyre. Latifi has potentially freed Max Verstappen here. He's come into the pits, but he's still being held up by Alexander Albon, as Lewis Hamilton is now right behind Daniel Ricciardo. Can we get the jump on Ricciardo? Let's hit some overtake mode while we are on this straight. If we can get the jump on Ricciardo here with the DRS and with the ERS, that will be fantastic for Lewis Hamilton, because neither driver have come into the pits. They're going side by side. It's brilliant driving there by Lewis Hamilton. The negative thing is Lewis Hamilton is behind Esteban Ocon. So Esteban Ocon in provisional P2, he pitted in from P2, is now ahead of Lewis Hamilton on the road quite casually. So with 40% left on the tyres, we are going to box in for fresh hards with Lewis Hamilton. This is Lewis Hamilton now comes into the pits for his one and only stop, coming in for the hard compound of tyre. That will free Max Verstappen and also Charles Leclerc as well, who is still being frustrated behind Alexander Albon. Right, let's take a look. Where do we come out in terms of people who have pit? With Lewis Hamilton, we're going to try to come out and hope to come out maybe ahead of Lando Norris. Could we jump Lando Norris? No. Sebastian Vettel is there. We're behind Lando Norris, so that should be okay. Kevin Magnussen defending from Lando Norris, locks up and goes off exactly where Mick Schumacher did in practice. I hope there's no safety car, because that could mess up George Russell's race. We don't need a safety car. Right, Lewis Hamilton, where can he achieve? So Leclerc needs to come in, Verstappen needs to come in, but they've both got clean air and both of them are chasing Esteban Ocon. Carlos Sainz is still being held up by Joe Tsunoda as well. Lewis Hamilton might be looking at potentially a 6th place finish if we can catch up to the back of Lando Norris pretty quickly. This has just been a brilliant drive from him, considering he has yet to win a race in F1. It's just been masterful, absolutely masterful. We're going to be one of the last ones to box in. All of the medium runners are still going, and Sergio Perez is still down in last place. Right, so George Russell is boxing in this lap because Carlos Sainz has come into the pits. And where does he come out? Has his overcut got him past Tsunoda and Zhou Guanyu? I think it has, and if it has, that is a problem for us, because now Carlos Sainz is going to have clean air and be able to chase down Esteban Ocon and then potentially George Russell, boxing in a lap too early for Tsunoda and Zhou has got them both out behind Carlos Sainz. His overcut has worked fantastically, as Lewis Hamilton is still yet to pull up to the back of Lando Norris. Max Verstappen has now come in and come onto the hard tyre. He's in P9. Daniel Ricciardo is in P10. So Charles Leclerc is in the pits for his one and only stop. He had to come in 1 step late because of Carlos Sainz. as Lewis Hamilton is now within the DRS of Lando Norris. That means we're probably going to be held up a little bit by Lando and by Zhou, which will allow Max Verstappen to catch up. We're both out ahead of Charles Leclerc, who comes out right behind Max Verstappen. So that's as we were. Lewis Hamilton currently P7.
Let's have a look here. This was the Aston Martin.
Lance Stroll, looking around the outside of his teammate, has just locked up and gone into the wall again. Oh, we really don't need a safety car here. Please, no safety cars. Lewis Hamilton is still fighting it out with Charles Leclerc, who's managed to get past Max Verstappen, and he's up into P8. Lewis Hamilton can't get by Lando Norris, who can't get by Zhou Guanyu, which is crazy because I would think the McLaren has a lot more pace than the Alfa Romeo. But in terms of the championship, this result is fine as Lewis Hamilton nearly crashes into the back of Lando Norris under braking.
It's a race position gained for a Mercedes. Let's take a look at the replay. Now watch this. Lewis Hamilton involved in this one.
Lewis hangs it around the outside of Lando Norris and makes the position count. If we do, I want to get past Zhou though, because he will then be in the lead of the DRS train. But P5 is obviously better than P6. Hopefully Lando can do a good job and hold up Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen behind. Hey Lando, if you can keep them behind you for the rest of the race, that Mercedes seat is yours. Here comes Lewis Hamilton then with the DRS open and with the ERS set to overtake. Our fuel is on full push. This should be an easy move down the inside of Zhou Guanyu. They're side by side, and before the corner even gets there, we don't even need to worry about doing it under braking. We are through. That's a brilliant move by Lewis Hamilton. We just now need to break the DRS as behind Charles Leclerc has got past Lando Norris. So maybe that Mercedes seat is not Lando's after all, because he couldn't even last a couple of laps. Charles Leclerc then with an easy DRS move on Lewis Hamilton. He was able to get past Zhou pretty easily, and then with the DRS he's able to get past Lewis Hamilton pretty easily. Let's take a look as Lewis Hamilton's got past Charles Leclerc again. Okay, that's interesting. We had the DRS on Leclerc, and if I'm seeing correctly, we have climbed up to the back of this fight between Yuki Tsunoda and Carlos Sainz for P3. How on earth did that happen? We're going to go back onto standard and try to save some tyres for the final laps of this race. There are only 5 laps to go, but there's a potential podium on here for Lewis and Charles Leclerc. Zhou Guanyu has been dropped now as Max Verstappen is currently in P8, being frustrated by him. George Russell's been saving his tyres for the last however many laps. I don't even know. As Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap of the race. We're going to give George Russell a few more laps on light just to save the tyres. And then we're going to just push him and hopefully get a fastest lap as well. He put it on pole despite qualifying in 3rd because of the engine penalties to the likes of Verstappen and Leclerc. The rain helped out in P2, knocked out Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez. But since the start of this race, since it was 5 red lights and away we go, George Russell has just been incredible. As Lewis Hamilton is right behind Carlos Sainz now. As Max Verstappen has run wide. What happened with him?
We're just watching the Red Bull.
Oh, he went very wide and he made contact with the wall. The Lando Norris has gone through. Our main contender for the title surely has damage. He must have front wing damage. Lewis Hamilton with a beautiful move, catching Yuki Tsunoda unawares, and now he's up into P4. This has been a beautiful recovery drive from Lewis Hamilton. He is now right behind Carlos Sainz here for 3rd place, the 3rd step of the podium. I don't even know when these guys caught up to the back of this battle. I know that Tsunoda and Sainz have been battling for a long period of time, but I didn't realize that we were so close to them. The pace right now of ourselves and Leclerc is fantastic. In 2nd place, Esteban Ocon. He must be bored here. This must be the easiest podium he probably is ever likely to have. And talking of easy, George Russell is on easy street, and at the end of this lap, we are going to allow him to absolutely attack on these tyres and with the fuel and with the ERS as well. We want him to get fastest lap of the race. Lewis Hamilton dives down the inside of Carlos Sainz at turn 1, and that's Lewis Hamilton up into P3. What a brilliant drive this has been for Lewis, although we now need to defend from Sainz under the DRS. The race pace of this Mercedes is absolutely incredible. As we go on board with George Russell, let's see how he is doing on his attempt at the fastest lap of the race. He's gone a green sector 1, so that's so far so good. It's been a masterful performance from George Russell as Lewis Hamilton is defending against the 2 Ferraris. Sainz is still ahead of Charles Leclerc, which will be brilliant for the title campaign of Lewis Hamilton, but George Russell, he's been so close this season to getting his first race win of his career. At Silverstone, he came so close. He pushed Lewis Hamilton so close and wasn't able to do it. But here at Spa, he's taken advantage of the grid penalties to Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, and he's been perfect. He's led every single lap, and that is the first race win of George Russell's career. What a performance. What a drive. Absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look at the replay again. George Russell, enjoy your moment. You're a race winner now, and you've deserved it based on this season. It's been a phenomenal drive. As we head back to the circuit, Esteban Ocon has been equally as good in the Alpine to get his first podium of the season. A great drive for him, and Lewis Hamilton has defended like mad ahead of Carlos Sainz in P4. That's a double podium finish again for the Mercedes. Leclerc in P5, Tsunoda in P6, his best result of the season. Zhou Guanyu in P7, staying just ahead of Max Verstappen, who did go off the track. P8 for Max Verstappen, a huge dent to his title campaign. Lando Norris in P9. Valtteri Bottas stayed ahead of Daniel Ricciardo for the final points paying position. But a man who is in the peak of his powers right now, George Russell, driving the wheels off this Mercedes, putting it on pole, and a fantastic race win.
This podium is a brilliant reward for everyone's hard work over the weekend. And right now it's the British driver who proudly takes his place on the podium. It was a hard-fought contest for all 3 drivers, each one securing precious points for their team. Mercedes once again showing why they're one of the biggest names in F1.
You can see that the team runs like a well-oiled machine. Everything was precise and on point this weekend.
At the end of the weekend, it's second place in the constructor standings for them.
For the next round, Formula One won't be straying too far. We'll be heading to the dunes of Zandvoort and the lightning speed of the Dutch Grand Prix.
Another brilliant race there, and this Mercedes in the second half of the season is hopefully only going to go from strength to strength. And George Russell, an absolute masterclass drive from him. Charles Leclerc ended up keeping the fastest lap, but I don't mind. George Russell, top step of the podium for the first time in his career. And at Spa, a place where he got that podium last year in the wet conditions, rather controversially, last season in the Williams. So congratulations, George. Esteban Ocon, congratulations to you as well. Obviously a huge part of the Mercedes family, managed by Toto Wolff. Maybe you'll see Esteban Ocon in a Mercedes car in the future. And Lewis Hamilton in P3, taking the final step of the podium with a brilliant, incredible drive to recover from P12 following an awful qualifying session. My battery on the PlayStation is low, so that's probably a good time to end the episode. But before we do, drivers standings, Lewis Hamilton extends his lead at the top from Charles Leclerc by an additional 4 points, and now we lead Charles Leclerc by 7 points. George Russell clear of Sergio Perez now. Sergio Perez's form has been absolutely awful from him so far. Lewis Hamilton up to 7 podiums for the season with 5 race wins. Lewis Hamilton still has the most race wins this season somehow. I don't know how he's managed to do it, considering how poor this car was at the start of the season. But it's going to be interesting now because we don't really have many upgrades to come between now and the end of the season. A lot of our resources, if not all of it, is going to go on to research for next season's car so that we don't start on the back foot. Constructors wise, we've closed the gap on Ferrari at the top, so maybe, just maybe, we can become the 9 times world champions in the constructors standings as well. Red Bull only taking 4 points here at Spa. Crazy, considering this is a circuit they do so well at. But that's going to be the end of today's episode, as Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and even Nick De Vries has had a fantastic weekend. Positives all round. George Russell gets a development point. We're going to see you then for the next episode, which will be tomorrow. And we'll obviously start off with some of the refurbishments of the HQ. And yeah, thank you so much again for all of the support. At the start of the video, I did mention a new schedule. You will be still getting 5 episodes of this save per week, but they're just going to run through Tuesday to Saturday. Hopefully that's okay for you. Leave a like on the video if you are enjoying the series. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here for regular Formula 1 Manager content. And in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you for the next video.